In this mini lecture, we are going to look at some of the highlights in Jordan. Please note that I am not a biblical scholar. I do not care what your religious beliefs are. We are going to be talking about real people. It doesn't matter what your faith is. These human beings existed. And so we are going to be talking a little bit about them. But first, we're going to start at the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is a salt lake between Israel and Jordan. It is the lowest point on Earth. The high salt content creates a density that makes it easy for people to float. Nothing lives in the Dead Sea because nothing can survive those harsh conditions. Even though it is inhospitable, the mud and the waters are really good for your skin. Just do not get any in your eyes or mouth. It burns like a special sort of hell, which brings me to my next story about the Dead Sea. In Genesis, God reveals to Abraham that Sodom and Gomorrah are to be destroyed for their grave sins. And you can guess what those so-called sins were based on the town's name. Abraham pleads for the lives of the people living there, especially the lives of his nephew Lot and his family. Abraham negotiates with God on behalf of the righteous in the two cities. God first agrees to spare the cities if some righteous people can be found. Two angels, appearing as men, are sent to Lot in Sodom, but are met by a wicked mob who demand the newcomers be handed over. Now, it depends on which story you hear, but it sounds like some non-consensual gay sex was the plan here. Lot offers the mob his daughters instead, but this only further enrages the mob. Yeah, I know. So it's not okay to rape men, but go ahead and rape underage daughters. Yeah, that sounds just as bad to me. But anywho, back to the story. Finding that Lot and his family are the only righteous inhabitants, the angels warned Lot to quickly evacuate the city and not look back. God destroyed the wicked cities using fire and brimstone, or an earthquake, or maybe a meteor. I don't know, some accounts say there's showers of steaming tar, maybe a volcano. I don't know. Whatever the method, the end wasn't pretty. Against God's warning, Lot's wife looked back, probably to make sure she turned off the stove, and God turned her into a pillar of salt. This pillar of salt and rock can be found by the Dead Sea. It is believed that the Dead Sea might be the site of Sodom and Gomorrah. Scholars are unsure if the formation of the sea correlates with the destruction of the cities, or if maybe the flooding occurred post-destruction. Whatever you believe, the story and the science behind it is interesting. On our trip, we will see parts of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are named after the location of their discovery, the Dead Sea. They were discovered by Bedouin shepherds in 1947, and there are over 900 manuscripts that were found in 11 caves, and the number keeps changing, but roughly around that. These texts are crucial for understanding the history of Judaism and the development of the Hebrew Bible. They are primarily written in Hebrew with some Aramaic and Greek text. There were thoughts about the origins of the Dead Sea Scrolls. I will spare you all the different theories and give you the recent and most likely. After testing pottery, lambskins, parchment, stray fibers, and ancient head lice, yeah, that's right. They did some Jurassic Park reverse genetic science on head lice. Anywho, all the tests confirmed that the Dead Sea Scrolls originated in Qumran, and this was an Essene community. This little village wasn't far from the caves where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. Now, the Essenes were a Jewish sect, and their community had lots of ritual baths and a library. Science and history agree that these same people created the Dead Sea Scrolls and hid them when they saw Vespasian and the Romans coming. Majority of the Dead Sea Scrolls are in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. However, the Jordan Museum in Amman has part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, so they do have a few fragments on display. They also have the Copper Scrolls. Now, fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls are still being discovered and rediscovered in people's houses, as some of the scrolls had been sold in the hand of private collectors in the past. So pieces are still showing up. I mentioned the Copper Scrolls. One of the most intriguing manuscripts from the Qumran is the Copper Scroll. And this is sort of an ancient treasure map that lists dozens of gold and silver caches. While the other texts are written in ink on parchment or animal skins, this curious document features Hebrew and Greek letters chiseled onto metal sheets, perhaps, as some have theorized, to better withstand the passage of time. However, none of the treasure has been found. So I don't know about this entirely. History shows that strange objects constructed in and out of the ordinary manner and contain information about vast hoards of treasure are usually fakes and hoaxes. I don't know about this. Also, this particular scroll wasn't originally found with the others by the Bedouins. A different archaeologist found it years later. Probably some guy just trying to make a name for himself. I don't know. This is my opinion. There are other theories and beliefs out there. Whatever you want to believe, you do you. And not far from the Dead Sea is Mount Nebo. This is where Moses viewed the Promised Land. He died and was reportedly buried here. From the top of this mountain, you can see the Dead Sea, Jericho, the Jordan River, and Jerusalem. After taking in the panoramic view, visitors can see the Church of Moses, which incorporates the remains of a 4th century basilica. The mosaics inside are fantastic. They have great geometric patterns that weave together with images of animals and landscapes and scenes of everyday life in late antiquity. I love the animals. You can even see a camel here. After Moses died, Joshua becomes the leader of the Israelites. He led them to conquer Jericho in the conquest of Canaan. As commanded by God, the Israelites marched around the city walls once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, they marched around the city 7 times. The Ark of the Covenant was in front of everyone. The priests blew their horns. The people started shouting, and the walls of Jericho fell down. Then the Israelites went in and slaughtered everyone except for a whore and her family that acted as a spy helping out Joshua. We won't be stopping in Jericho, but you can see it on the top of Mount Nebo, so I thought I would include this little refresher for you. Since we're on the topic of Moses, whatever happened to his brother Aaron? Well, he died and was buried on Jebel Haran. We can actually see the peak of this mountain when we are in Petra. There is a 14th century whitewashed mosque on the site. I was told there is a fossil, a blue stone with a star, that is unique to this mountain, just as the biblical Mount Sinai has its own burning bush fossil, which I do have a few of. You can see that I acquired one of these stones that is supposed to be specific to this mountain. I have tried fact-checking this story, and I've got nothing. I just have this rock with a star. So, I don't know, maybe it's baked Play-Doh, maybe it is a second-class relic. I don't know. Anywho, it sounds good. Again, it doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are. I don't care if you think Jesus is the Christ or just another zealot. Nevertheless, he was an important figure in history. So we will be talking about him as the man. Jesus left Nazareth and went to Bethany beyond the Jordan, where John the Baptist was baptizing people. Jesus got in line and John baptized him. Now let's talk about John for a minute. John was a Jew that practiced ritualistic baptism, which actually wasn't too unusual for the time. We see other figures doing this too. The three monotheistic religions believed that John was a prophet and he was claiming that a Messiah was coming. So, why does Jesus need to be baptized by John? It isn't for a cleansing of sins. The baptism was actually an anointing by God that Jesus is the Messiah. Traditionally, we see the kings of the Israelites being anointed by prophets using oil. So this here is the site where Christianity begins. I'm afraid the story of John the Baptist doesn't have a happy ending. He was executed at the fortress Machaerus by order of Herod Antipas. Now, Herod didn't like that John called him out on his divorce, then remarrying his brother's wife named Herodias. Now, Herod didn't really have a beef with John, but his new wife did not like him at all. So, to make his new wife happy, Herod had John thrown in prison, but he kept him alive because he thought John was interesting. Herodias' daughter, Salome, danced for her stepfather Herod, and when he offered to grant her anything she asked, she demanded the beheading of John the Baptist, which was prompted by her mother, who wanted revenge on John. Oh, there's some really weird family dynamics here that we don't have time to unpack, but this is the fortress where all of this happened. The dancing to the beheading. Over time, the river has meandered away from the baptismal site. The modern river is kind of small, but all other rivers are small when you grow up to the Mississippi. It flows north to south through the Sea of Galilee and drains into the Dead Sea. Pilgrims come from all over the world to touch the water, dip items in it, get in, or have a full dunking baptism. And that's where we're going to leave it for today.